Okay, hi everybody. Good evening. Good evening from Scotland. It's 7:30 in the evening, and hello to anyone watching in Argentina, where David knows it's 3:30 in the afternoon. David Comedi, it's a real pleasure to have you with us as a BDS activist from Argentina. You are really in the news. Your achievements are giving succor to Palestinians and giving confidence to BDS activists around the world. We are massively in your debt. Now, these things don't happen without hard work, and I'll be asking you shortly, David, about how this was achieved, the challenges that you overcame in order to make such a tremendous contribution to the worldwide BDS movement. But first of all, my name's Mick Napier from the Scottish Palestine Solidarity Campaign here in Scotland. And David Comedi is speaking to us from San Miguel de Tucumán. He assures me my pronunciation is acceptable. And I'll invite David to say a few words about himself, because he has a fascinating history of a journey from Zionist to very effective anti-Zionist. David, can you tell the listeners and viewers something about yourself?
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you for having me here. As I could tell about myself, that I was raised in a Zionist Jewish family, and as a 18-year-old, after high school young person, I decided to immigrate to occupied Palestine, to Israel, to Haifa, and study physics in the Technion. As soon as I met Palestinians over Haifa in occupied Palestine, I immediately started to see how the situation for Palestinians is. I felt identification with their reality in Haifa and in Palestine more with them than with the Jewish Israelis, because I was living from Argentina. Remember that that was in 1979. We had a military government here in Argentina, the military junta, and people here were really frightened, and we had desaparecidos, people disappearing, and very strong state terrorism in Argentina. And immediately I felt empathy to the Palestinians, but I needed a long time to become a non-Zionist first, to leave Zionism, and then some more years to realize that being a non-Zionist was not enough. I have to become an anti-Zionist and confront Zionism in order not to be, a passive Zionist.
David, thank you very much. There's so much more to tell. You're a member of IJAN, the International Jewish Anti-Zionist Network, and we in SPSC worked with IJAN to launch a campaign against the JNF, a pillar of Israeli apartheid. But that's nostalgia. We can talk about that later. On to the worldwide news. The Israelis apparently have sent a delegation to Geneva. They seem to be acting very strangely. A minnow in international football is demanding the expulsion of the Argentine national football team, which Scotland has a very modest football team. It's a bit like us taking on Brazil, I think. But how did we get here? Why was the game cancelled very shortly before it was due to be played? It must have been an item of news in Argentina for quite considerable time before that. Can you fill us in on some of the gaps, David?
Yes, it's difficult to really understand how the process occurred, okay? Because we started the campaigning like immediately as soon as the date of this game was announced in the media, in the press. That was by the end of March, and we started campaigning in April. We were coming from a strong campaign that we did before that, in order for an Uruguayan actress, and she's married to an Argentinian musician called Natalia Oreiro. We were campaigning strongly and organizing to get her to not going to Israel, to not going to Tel Aviv to perform. She's an actress and she's a singer, and she has a fan club in Israel and also in Russia and everywhere in the world. She's quite famous and an important artist from South America. She's well known from the TV shows, etc. And I'm telling you about that because that was very important for us to get united under a strong campaign before this one. Okay, that was a strong campaign which was successful, maybe not as famous as this one with the soccer, with the football team, but it was very important regionally and was also important for some people in Europe that get to know this actress and the importance of this actress for the region and for the Israelis. So what we were able to get with this campaign, through social networks and sending letters to the actress and also to the representatives of this actress, Natalia Oreiro, we were able to get her to leave her show out, to not going to the show in Tel Aviv. And that was a big success for us and motivated us for a strong campaign, the next campaign, which was this one, immediately after when this game was announced in the press. So this campaign started by sending letters to the Sampaoli. Jorge Sampaoli is the manager of the team. Okay, the team manager, the trainer of the team. He is well known for doing having some social sensitivity. He did some declarations. They made some declarations regarding social issues before. So we had some hope that he would hear us and would refrain or try to use his power to cancel this game. Unfortunately, he wasn't strong enough to do that, but we, after a couple of letters and having our people visiting him or visiting his attorney a couple of times, we heard him speaking in the news, giving interviews, saying that for technical reasons he would prefer not go. That was a month ago. He said it would be better not to go because it's out of our plans. It's not good for the technical reasons to go to the Middle East where we have a conflict, you know, and also a tense situation, and also because it's getting it's too much stress for the players, something like that. Too much stress for the players. That was a nice sign for us because we had the idea that he was listening a little bit. And then we learned to know that some players also were not really fine with going. The campaign started to become viral in the social networks. We saw that many people started to join our Facebook pages and Twitter pages and started to replicate, and that was really viral, becoming viral.
So are you saying, David, are you saying that the first stage was writing letters to some of the authorities in the team? The second stage was largely confined to social media before moving on to a later stage. Is that what I'm hearing? Yes, that was social media mainly, but also we used some friendly newspapers, okay? Newspapers that we have people in some newspapers we have which are aligned with the opposition, let's say, the government opposition political party, which allow us to put some interviews regarding this campaign. But it didn't get into the mainstream media at all. I would say that has some media coverage,
but not really mainstream media. The thing that is that the social media allowed us to break this, this problem with the mainstream media, which they don't want to help us to get this coverage. Now, there was other things that helped, which are not dependent on us exactly, but is related to the coordination with the BNC, okay, the National Boycott Committee, which is very important. I should say that we changed to a new stage where things are going smoothly, much smoother, after we get this coordination through the BNC, the Palestinian BNC, okay? So it's easier to coordinate with people in Uruguay.
So you mean coordination between Argentina and the Boycott National Committee in Palestine, yeah?
Not only that, we coordinate through them with BDS groups in the region, in Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay, Colombia, and we had a meeting last year, which was very useful for this smooth coordination and understanding between the different groups. We are making a big effort to work together toward common goals and campaigns. So every time any group has its campaign, the whole continent starts going together in the same campaign. So that was very important to help us get this viralization of the campaign in the social media, and also to get some coverture in other countries as well. So the campaign got international, and also the Palestinian comrades, they issued a video showing a soccer player, a football player from Palestine who was shot in the knee during the Great Return March. I guess you know the case. Do you know the case about this football player from Palestine who was shot and lost his career because of that?
Yes, we heard about that. And I also heard about other soccer players, football players in previous years who were often shot multiple times in the legs deliberately by Israeli soldiers to cripple them and prevent them from ever playing football again. So yes, we heard about the latest one. So you think this information about the crimes against football were important?
That was very important because a video was edited showing this, I can't recall his name right now. I had it on top of my head, but I can't recall his name. But he recorded a message to the Argentinian players and to Sampaoli, the manager, the trainer, asking them not to go. And I think that was a very strong message. A very strong message. I am sure the players, some players saw it, watched this video. But the video was very, very, very famous in the social media, and that was with the help of the Palestinian National Boycott Committee, and they actually made this video in Palestine, and they got it subtitled in Spanish, and that was very important. And that was a very strong message. Another important message, and I'm not really sure how this happened, but exactly at the same time, during this month, there was a premiere of the film that was made, a co-production between Palestine and Argentina about the football apartheid. You know, the film is called Yalla Yalla in Arabic, Yalla Yalla in Arabic, and it was the premiere during these weeks.
Can you repeat that? We lost you for about 5 seconds, David. What's the title of the film?
Yalla Yalla. Arabic, okay? Which means let's go, right? So this film, it's a co-production between Argentina and Palestine, and it's about exactly the soccer or football apartheid situation. Is speaking about these players that were got shot in the knees, in the legs, and lost their careers. It's talking about the lack of freedom of movement for the players, the bombardments during the 2014 campaign by Israel on Palestine, on Gaza, right, which killed many sportists in Palestine, in Gaza, and all the situation. I haven't watched the movie myself, I confess, but I saw the trailer, okay? Because the premiere was in Buenos Aires. We haven't gotten it to Tucumán yet, but it was very important for the activists to join the movement in Buenos Aires after watching this movie. I think the timing was excellent to get more resonance to the campaign in Buenos Aires. Can't hear you.
That's because I'm a complete idiot and I muted myself before I asked you a question. Sorry about that, David. Okay. So are you saying that the information, the raw information about the reality on the ground in Palestine for ambitious football players was very important? Was it very important in generating greater numbers of activists to put pressure on the team, or was it very important in persuading members of the team that they might be better not going? So I guess that's part of a bigger question. There's a discussion here to what was the blend, do you think? What was the blend of pressure on the institution, the football institution, not to go, maybe not, to ask them to pressurize them against their will, and what was the proportion of persuasion where the players themselves thought that it was the right thing not to go? This is a big issue for a lot of people. Yeah. If you could talk about that, David, that would be most welcome.
Look, I am trying to bring the context here. That was from the campaign point of view, was very important to get more activists into the campaign and to get people to help sharing the campaign videos and the campaign images that were very strong about the issue. About the context, the general context, you have to understand the following. The whole issue was forced on the players because the Argentinian Football Association was in a bad economic shape, and they got money from the Israeli Football Association and from I guess also from the Israeli government to get into this game. Okay, so they were not really happy about that from the technical point of view. As Sampaoli already said, as the trainer already said, was like out of schedule to do this a few weeks before the cup, the World Cup, and it was an atmosphere, a tense atmosphere, and this tense atmosphere for them was becoming more a reality, even from the social media, I guess, from all the information that we were helping bring to them through the social media. But I think the game was not really liked by them, or for many of them at the first place because of the technical reasons. But the big bosses in the Argentinian Football Association wanted the money, and they were pressuring them to do this. Okay.
So do you think, David, what we hear is that many performers and singers who go to Israel now get a premium rate to persuade them to go and to defy the boycott? Was the Argentinian football team paid a premium or offered a premium rate to go to Israel?
Well, they got about between $2 and $3 million. This is well documented because they got this money and now they have to see how they return it back. You see, because they canceled the game. They are negotiating, as far as I know, how to to get out from this legal situation that they got into by canceling the game. But leaving that problem aside, that's their problem, not our problem, right? Yes, they got money in advance to get this game, and then the political sphere came into the issue because the Israeli government, and that was very important as well, I think, the culture minister, Miri Regev in Israel, together with Netanyahu, they wanted to get a big noise about this game, even more than before, yeah, because it stopped being just a business and it became a political game for them. So they wanted to, the whitewash of the massacres going on in Gaza, and showing that the boycott is not going ahead, it's not really having success, and said that what best thing to have is to the best football player in the world, Messi, coming into the Wailing Wall, for example, and having him kissing the Wailing Wall. This is big, strong messages of whitewashing, of how they say this, of Hasbara. Yeah, Hasbara. So when this came into the whole issue, I think that was some players probably, and this, I'm just speculating now, must have felt used for this reason, right? Because it was clear that it was becoming too political, and they were trying to use the game just to whitewash the massacres, which is another issue. Because I think this is a success. Not only the BDS campaign is important, but all these dead people in Gaza, all these massacres, and which got coverture here. People are starting to realize in Argentina and in the whole world, I think, starting to realize that there is a genocide going on here, right? And that was also in the declaration, in the statement by the vice president of the Argentinian Association, Argentinian Football Association. There was a statement. He said that lots of people are getting killed in that region, and we don't want to go to a place where they're killing so many people. We don't want to be part of that. It's not a place to go. That was a statement by the vice president. The president was really making pressure to still go and do the game, but there was not any way back. The players, they said they didn't want. The trainer didn't want to do it, and they understood that it was the right thing to do. There was a statement by one of the players who said that was the right thing to do. This is Higuain. I think you may have seen him in the TV saying that was the right thing to do. That's common sense. You don't go to a place where there is they are killing people and things like that. Yeah.
So if I hear you correctly, it really chimes with experiences around the world that in a time of massacre, in a time of great Palestinian bloodshed, it's easier. Okay, it's not so difficult to achieve BDS successes, perhaps because it changes the balance between institutional managers who in normal times might resist very hard, but during a time of such obvious and undeniable and visible Israeli mass killing, they don't have the same stomach for a fight, and maybe our people have more determination. Does that, so you find, for example, in Northern Ireland, where they smash up the arms factory during a massacre, the jury finds them not guilty. We have campaigns here in periods shortly after Operation Protective Edge or what's the other one? Cast lead.
Solid lead, cast lead, yeah.
Then it's easy is the wrong word, but it becomes possible to aim higher because the opposition seems temporarily at least demoralized. Does that make sense, David?
Yes, I'm sure it has to do. I think the first thing that when the game was cancelled, for me it became very clear for me. Like that's my appreciation, because all all what I'm saying is actually my analysis. It's not analysis by the BDS group here or the Argentinian Committee of Solidarity with Palestine, okay? Which which organized together. We organized these campaigns, okay? I have to say that this Argentinian Committee of Solidarity with Palestine, which is formed by a coalition of many social and popular and base, grassroots movements and groups, work together, and as I told you, together with other BDS groups in the continent, and we had help from also from the BDS people in the US. They helped us a lot to get the message in their social media. They shared all our campaigns, and all this was important. But immediately as I heard about the news, together with the joy, the happiness of having this game cancelled, I immediately remembered the dead ones. The dead ones, they were not killed for nothing, right? They were killed, and their killing were not for nothing.
In vain. I think our point, David, is we cannot at this stage stop the mass killing, but what we can do is try to make sure that the martyrs do not die in vain, and that the anger that their murder generates, which otherwise would not be channeled, would just be individual pain and sadness, is channeled into BDS. Yeah. Exactly.
I think this service that we have to do as activists is to make sure that they're not dying in vain, and we hope that this massacre stop, and we hope really that to see free Palestine as soon as possible.
David, we have an Israel-Scotland game in November, and of course this is a challenge to many people in Scotland. But could I ask you just to tell the viewers if I've got it right, that key to your success, I mean, we can only dream here of continental cooperation and continental mutual support. This we would love. This would be like dying and going to heaven, where we are at the moment. But inside Argentina, disparate and varied organizations worked together in joint committees. Do I hear you correctly? And that generated a synergy, achieved much more than individual groups could by themselves. Is that part of the lesson from Argentina to the rest of us?
Yeah. Yes. I must say that. I must say that because there was this is very clear when you compare the achievements in an era, in a time in the past when we worked alone, separately. We achieved nothing, almost nothing, right? We got some signatures and we got many support and sometimes help here and that, but we never got a major success like this one. So it's clear that since we started to organize, after we have our first meeting with the activists in the whole continent, okay, we have a meeting coordinated, okay, I must say, by the National Boycott Committee from Palestine, and that was a tipping point, I would say, a tipping point where you see things starting to happen, really starting to happen, new people coming into the movement and from other organizations and human rights organizations, even ONGs, and many organizations that get together to support the BDS strategy, to support the BDS. It's to make pro-Palestinian work in general, but also to support the BDS strategy. It was very important.
And was the key that this was a unity that never existed before, but it was very specifically a unity in action. It wasn't unity on devising a common program. It was to achieve what you have actually achieved. So to use a cliche, it's unity and struggle rather than trying to do this in the abstract. Have I got that right?
Yes, yes, and we already have a kind of agreement that every time you have a big campaign in some country, immediately the other groups start helping in that campaign, like participating. And we had such a help from Colombia, from Brazil, from comrades in Uruguay, in Paraguay, in Paraguay not, but other countries in South America, Venezuela, of course, who work together. Mexico, I can't. It's not South America. It's North America, but it's Latin America. Also helped, but I shouldn't say only. It was a big help from North America as well. I saw for example, Jewish Voice for Peace, for example, in the U.S. In the U.S., they shared our campaign images, and also the USACB, USACB, United States Committee for Academic and Cultural Boycott, was also helping us to share this in the social media and get international cooperation. But I haven't told you yet the real tipping point. Okay, there was
This is the question. This is the question. What was the real tipping point?
The last one, I think, was the one that made, the final momentum was made by the Barcelona BDS group. Barcelona, Spain. The Argentinian team went there for the final stop in Europe before going to Jerusalem. Okay? So we coordinated with the Barcelona people, and through the BNC, because there's a coordinator in Europe, the coordinator in South America. So through the coordinators, it's much easier. So we coordinated, and we told them, okay, they are there already. They are in that place they had in Barcelona. So let's make a campaign. Do how do you say a demonstration in front of this hotel where they were staying in Barcelona, and they did it. There were like 30 activists maybe, but they made such a big noise that this is what is written in the media. That was the main point that made them change their minds. It seems, because they heard this noise from the outside. They were training and listening to this noise, and they probably started to talk with each other and said, okay, we can go. They were already not really wanting to go, but that probably was a very strong message from the Barcelona group. And Messi lives in Barcelona, you know that, right? Messi plays for Barcelona, he lives there. So it was also a lucky thing that they went to Barcelona, I think, because in Barcelona, it's a very strong BDS city, The mayor is supporting BDS as well. So
the mayor,
I think
the mayor.
The mayor is also a BDS supporter, and the city council supports the BDS initiative. So there was not many activists, but they were noisy enough to make them hear the message, and they saw these shirts with red paint, that were a very strong message. You are getting stained by Palestinian blood if you go to play this game. And I think this made them think a little bit farther, and they were already unhappy with the game, and I think that was the tipping point. There was another thing, that there was a message from the Palestinian president of the Palestinian Football Association. He did his personal campaign as well through the media. He got lots of media coverage, saying that that was like going to play in Jerusalem, a city which is a contested city. It was unacceptable, and he said that they would make a campaign against Argentina in the International Football Association. So Argentina would be declared complicit of the Israeli occupation, and we wouldn't get to host the World Cup in 2030, because Argentina is postulating to host the World Cup in 2030. So they said, you cannot support, Arab countries will not support a country that is ignoring these massacres that are going on in Gaza.
From what you're saying, David, I'm sure many people listening, and certainly myself, are learning lessons about how to begin to organise against the Israel-Scotland game in November. But let me move forward a little bit. You've won for the moment. When Reykjavik City Council voted for boycott, the capital of Iceland, the Americans pulled out all the stops, and they applied tremendous pressure on the city council, really threatened them economically with a lot of pain, and the city council retreated. It was a defeat. It was a victory, and then it was a defeat. How strong do you think? How likely is it that Mr. Trump and Mr. Netanyahu and all their friends will be able to reverse this victory? And what can we do internationally? You'll be in solidarity across the South American continent, but what can the rest of us do in order to try to make sure that defeat doesn't happen and that we consolidate this inspiring victory?
It's a difficult question. It's a difficult question because it's usually what happens is that, for example, the Zionist establishment, which is quite strong in Argentina, as you know, and they have a sympathetic government now in Argentina, which is Macri's government. Mauricio Macri is aligning with Israel during business to militarize the country with the Israeli and US system for controlling populations, right? They are doing all this kind of business and agreements. It's really a bad situation for BDS groups and for the left in general in Argentina. Now, sorry, you're mute.
Perhaps now, David, would be the time. Just a footnote, but when you talk about this, the relationship between Macri and Netanyahu, between the two governments to militarize Argentina, you should know that the biggest city in Scotland, Glasgow, has already deployed an Israeli military-grade surveillance system in the city centre, which has emotional recognition software in order to police the city. So this is something else that we have in common. But my question was, Netanyahu called Macri to try to reverse the decision, to try to annul it, to try to save the game, but failed. Why do you think he failed? Because clearly he would want to help his comrade Netanyahu.
My analysis would be that Macri tried to reverse the players' decision, the technical team decision not to go, which, as I told you, they had already technical reason not to go. And there were also the situation regarding the tense situation about the whole conflict. So I think he couldn't change their minds. He couldn't change their minds. And he decided to leave the thing to the Argentinian Football Association to fix, okay? Because they have a contract and how to fix the contract, and he'll try to stay out of the issue as much as possible, not to get stained personally for this issue. Right? Just live like a football thing and not to get too much involved to this issue, I think. You know, Argentina has a stance on international law, which is quite traditional, which is in favor of international law. And Argentina usually votes against Israel in many votes in the UN, in the assembly, and had also votes against Israel in the Security Assembly, Committee of the UN. The Security Council, sorry, the Security Council of the UN, and also in the General Assembly. Now, with this new government, which is politically aligned with Trump and aligned with Netanyahu, they are trying to change this policy, but it's not so easy because it's traditional policy and it's related to conflicts that Argentina has with other questions like the Islas Malvinas, the Falkland Islands, as they call it in the UK, you know, in the south. There was a big war with the UK, with England a long time ago, and in 1982, regarding these islands, which is a conflict, which is like a national issue here, very strong national issue. So they cannot really go against international law in the UN and in the foreign policy. The foreign policy is already fixed. It's a state policy which is in favor of supporting international law in general. Okay, so I think that this has to do that maybe he was advised by the foreign minister not to get into this issue too much because it was clear that Netanyahu wanted to get this big party, big party on the Nakba. You know, this big party with the Argentinian players, Argentinian players. That was really unethical thing to do, even for this kind of politicians.
If I could just ask one more question. The Israeli response is one to lobby as hard as they can, but also to say that the Argentine squad cancelled, not because of BDS. You guys are irrelevant and you're very tiny and you can't touch Israel. It was Palestinian terrorism, or it was terrorism of some sort, which threatened Messi and his innocent family, and that's why they're not going. Do you want to comment on that before we ask you to make some concluding remarks, David?
Yeah, first I will comment on this. If you let me, I want to say one more thing regarding the previous question. Is it possible?
Of course.
Remember the following regarding Argentinian foreign policy. You see, the U.S. and Netanyahu and Trump, they are actually alone with a new political stance regarding Jerusalem. So they moved the embassy, the American embassy, to Jerusalem, right? And actually, the U.S. and Argentina, the U.S. and Israel are alone on that, except for Paraguay and Guatemala, two Latin American countries, which are actually very dependent on the U.S. Argentina didn't do that. Argentina didn't get its embassy moved to Jerusalem, and it won't do it either because of this foreign policy, as I'm telling you about. It's really important for the Argentinian foreign policy to keep abide to the international law because it has claims of its own, especially in the Falklands, in the Islas Malvinas. Okay, they are not called Falklands; they are called Islas Malvinas. Remember that. Okay. Good. Next, your next question was about
I mean, you could have predicted it, that the Israelis are now saying that BDS is irrelevant, trivial, very tiny. You can't change anything. You're useless. It was terrorism and intimidation, that threats against Messi's family, children, and so on, by these dastardly pro-Palestinians, which led to the cancellation. If you could make a few remarks on that, and then make some concluding remarks, David, we'll wind up.
Good. Okay. There's no any proof of those claims. No proof whatsoever of these claims about the Argentinian players getting, or families getting, any threats. And I think I told you so many issues here, so many points that helped to this decision, that you don't really need this into the you know, I am a physicist, so I don't need this into my model here, right, to describe what happened. It's really not important to get to suppose that there wasn't any threat. It's just, there's no, it's so easy to imagine the Asbara inventing these threats, okay, and getting these ideas that the terrorism and all. It's very clear for us that this is just trying to you know, hide this big Palestinian success. I would say the Palestinian people's success of getting Argentina and the best soccer players in the world go into Jerusalem for the big party of for the big Netanyahu's party, you know.
Yeah. Okay, David, do you want a final sentence or two?
Well, I'm happy about this interview. Say thank you for this initiative. I follow you in Facebook and learn a lot from your campaigns over Europe. And I hope we unite further all campaigns to get stronger and bigger results in the future.
David Comedi in San Miguel de Tucumán, thank you very much for responding so quickly to our request this morning to speak to us. It's been very illuminating, and I think some of the points you've made will feed into our organising over the next few months. David Comedi, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Bye.
Good night to people in Scotland, and good afternoon to people in Argentina. Could I ask people here, get in touch if you wish to be organising and beginning to organise for the November game. Email campaign, singular, campaign@scottishpsc.org.uk, or phone 0795 800 2591. 0795 800 2591, because we're going to begin to ratchet up the preliminary organising for the protest against the Israeli team in November. With that, again, thanks on behalf of all of us to David, and goodbye, everybody. Bye. Cut, Sophia.